Hi, my name is Harry's, my wife Mandy, and we have a channel where we talk about current events. And today we're talking about something that hits home to us. It's about living with your parents.
Perfect.
Me and my wife are both Indian, and we had an arranged marriage. It wasn't a love marriage. We were actually set up together.
Which sounds kind of weird when you're not from that culture, because it's like, oh, you guys like forced to get married, but it's like totally not like that.
We love each other.
Yeah. The way we first met was we were introduced through our families, through family friends, and our parents first met each other, and then I met Harry's parents, and then I came to Harry's house and I met him and his parents, and that's when like we had our first conversation.
It was pretty awkward.
Yeah, it was really awkward.
We have a whole bunch of cultural views that we want to talk about. Some of the points being being in a love marriage or having an arranged marriage. We're also going to talk and have some points about divorce and how just some couples get married, especially from love marriages. We'll also scratch the surface on American divorce rates, Indian divorce rates. There's some other countries as well.
If you're not from our Indian culture and you see things from like an outside point of view, it's kind of weird because obviously you guys don't understand it. So I feel like if we talk about it and make this video, that you guys would understand it way more and where we're coming from and how our culture is so different to like American culture. And now that like a lot of people from India live here and are born in America and like more Western countries, like how the two have come together.
And living with your parents when you're 30 may seem a little weird to most people, but it's
actually normal.
Yeah.
So in our culture, there's two different types of marriages. There's a love marriage and an arranged marriage. And traditionally, like especially back in the day in India, arranged marriages were a thing. And how they used to work was when a boy and a girl was younger and around the same age, their parents would arrange that when they would get older to the age, they would both get married. And the only time they would see each other is on the day of getting married. So you would just meet your husband on your wedding day.
Typically after going to school and getting an education,
yeah,
most of the time.
So this is when they were like, well, back in then it was like when they were 16, 17 years old.
Yeah.
Now
yeah.
times have changed and like people get married whenever
We're talking about like modern times.
I'm talking about how it started off though.
Yeah, it started off that way. Before it was just cover your face, you get married, you go home, then you find out who you got married to,
and
which
you
is
basically
kind of bad.
have to live with them and live with their family, and you wouldn't know your husband and you would have to grow to love your husband.
If you got Indian friends, just ask them about how their parents got married. Most of them
would say that they met them on the day.
Yeah.
Or they saw a photo of them and they said yes or no to the photo without even speaking to them, and then they would just go get married to them.
But nowadays, you actually get with the person and you go hang out with them. You could text,
you
whatever.
get to know them, and you actually have a choice. So you actually get to go on dates with them.
If it's international, then you could just Skype or text them,
you actually
call
get to talk to them, get to know the person before you decide to marry them. And then if you don't like that person or you don't have the same like views and values, then you would just say no, and then your parents would find somebody else for you. And then the other type of marriages, which is more Western, I think now in our culture, is called a love marriage, and that's when somebody marries somebody as boyfriend and girlfriend, and typically what happens is that's forbidden in the family, so they'll date behind their parents' backs.
It's frowned upon.
And it's very frowned upon in especially strict parents' household, because some parents are strict and some parents aren't strict. And when they'll basically study and not tell their family like, oh, they're dating somebody, and they'll date them undercover. And then when they both finish their degrees, or they're studying or whatever, and their parents like, okay, now you've done your study, now it's time for you to get married. And that's when they'll tell their parents like, hey, I've been dating this person, I don't want to marry them.
Which isn't a bad thing.
It's not always a bad thing.
It's not a bad
I don't
thing.
think it's a bad thing.
We don't frown upon that kind of stuff either. It's
Even
just,
though we didn't choose to do that, I don't think we think that's like an awful thing if you did that.
If you love each other, it's fine. And if your parents give you the blessing, go for it. But even if your parents think it's okay and they want you to get married, they have social pressure on them as well, and then the community will look and frown upon them, so it makes your parents look bad.
And like people will start saying like, oh, did you hear that that family, like their daughter married this person and that person, and oh, they don't have a good job and they don't do this, and oh, she did whatever she wanted, and they're not controlling their kids, and like it's really awful because like parents come here from India to make a better life for their kids.
Okay, so when me and my wife got married, she moved in with me, which I was living with my parents. And in our culture, we actually believe that when you're raised as a child, your parents take care of you, and when they're older and you have a job and you can take care of them, you should support them at that point, because they're at the point where, you know, they've hit retirement. And I think it goes back to India, because in India they probably don't have a pension plan or anything. There's no retirement where you just relax after you're 65, but your parents want you around because it'd just be boring if you weren't, because then you have kids, they want to see your kids, they want to have fun with them, they want to spoil them. And it just creates an atmosphere where it's just joyful. Another main reason why we stay with our parents is it creates a unity. So usually when there's an issue or problem with the marriage itself, there's always people around that have positive influences that keep you together. Say if you get in an argument, you don't refer to a marriage counselor. Most Indians don't go to any marriage counseling.
That doesn't exist in our culture.
Yeah.
It's always like a family member.
It's always a family member, and there's always mediation between the couple, and they always want you to resolve. There's never divorce usually doesn't exist.
Like your parents aren't gonna want you to like break up and leave each other. Your parents are always gonna have your best
they spent the time to find the right person for you,
and then they spend all that money on like getting
but
married.
It's not always about the money. Sometimes it's
they want you to be happy because you're their child,
yeah.
so they're gonna like help you. They're never gonna say anything bad. Sometimes you don't get privacy because, you know, if we have an argument, they're always listening, so
just lock the door and you go outside.
But they're always like, oh, what's happening, what's wrong, and all this stuff, and sometimes you just don't want to talk about it. It's just between like you and your husband. So I think like that's like a con, I would say, to living with your parents.
We have boxing matches. She tries to beat me.
I win.
She tries to beat me up.
I think there's just a lot of reasons why we live with our family. Not just because like it's part of our culture. Well, that is one of the main reasons, I feel like.
It keeps the family strong, and then there's financial reasons, there's just mental.
It's easier financially, it's easy for your kids because your kids get to, you know, spend time with their grandparents. It's
instead of seeing them once a year.
Exactly, and it's nicer for them too because they can actually like grow with their grandchildren and with their children and spend time with them. Some families out there that can live like together and coherently, but there's not every family is like that. And I think that because that times are changing and we live like in America now, we live in a Western like area where some couples when they get married they don't want to live with their in-laws. They want to live their own life. So I feel like everybody's different.
We've seen people where they left the house and they live with their wife and their husband and they have kids, but then they end up just moving back. Or they regret it, or they say it's hard, or they're struggling and they miss like their in-laws. Well, those are just a few reasons why you want to live with your family. Obviously, there are going to be people in the comments or people that just don't understand or don't get it. Thank you for watching our video, and please comment, share, subscribe.
And we'll be hoping to make more videos about like news and stuff like that, things that are going on in the world, and also like more stuff about our culture maybe. And if you have any suggestions or you have anything that you'd like us to talk about, please comment down below. Peace!